Welcome, welcome, welcome. I would like to welcome you to episode 300 of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. And here at the Unpopular Podcast, you know what? Forget the intro, man. I appreciate y'all. Did you know the life expectancy of a podcast is 3 episodes? Like, if you do the stats and everything, a lot of podcasts don't make it 3 episodes. Or make it past 3 episodes, and I'm on episode 300, man. I'm not about to, I'm not about to go in depth or whatever. I do appreciate everyone that's helped me on the journey. I do appreciate, everyone that is here, everyone that's coming, everyone that's leaving. I appreciate every single one of you guys, because whether it's one fan or whatever, or I'm not even going to call them family, whether it's one supporter or many, I appreciate all of you guys. It takes a lot to do this. So the fact that you guys are here, it means a lot. Episode 300. Let's get it. I have to start this episode with an acknowledgement that Luka is him. Luka is boy. Everybody that's in the NBA is good. I've said this before. Everyone that's in a professional league is good. Everyone that you can the worst person on an NBA floor, NBA bench will give the random person 50 in any random gym. Like, that's how good the NBA is. There's a difference between stars and superstars, And Luka, even though I think he's 23, 24, Luka is different. The other night, Luka had first player in NBA history to have 60, 20, and 10. 60, 20, and 10. Yeah, man. When we talk about the best players in the league, he's up there, man. I don't know if I don't know. I don't know if he could be the best player in the league. I don't know. I know that you can make a case for a lot of people, but he's definitely up there. When we talk about MVP, I don't know if he'll win the MVP. I mean, it's a pretty tight race in my opinion between, at least right now, him, Jason Tatum, Nikola Jokic, Giannis. I would even throw Steph in there, even though he's hurt right now. But boy, the fact that Luka Doncic, when we talk about history books and we talk about accolades, Luka did something that the great Wilt Chamberlain never did. And a lot of people don't like to put, I'm one of those people, I don't like to put Wilt Chamberlain in those. When we talk about stats, usually Wilt Chamberlain is like number one in something, because it's like, all right, because his numbers are absurd. So to do something that Wilt Chamberlain never did is insane, man. Luka is different. Luka is different, man. Congrats, shouts out to Luka. He is when we talk about one thing that's been talked about, when we talk about Luka and how sensational he's been this season and last season and the career that we think he's going to have. It's unfortunate, but it's real that people and things are always going to be tied to Luka that maybe shouldn't. Like, Markelle Fultz is always going to be tied to Jason Tatum because of the trade that Philly did with Boston that ultimately saw Markelle Fultz go to Philly and Jason Tatum go to the Boston Celtics. Greg Oden is always going to be attached to Kevin Durant. Greg Oden went number 1. Kevin Durant went number 2. Sam Bowie is always going to be attached to Michael Jordan. Sam Bowie went 1. I think Michael Jordan went, Sam Bowie went 2. Michael Jordan went 3. You know what I'm saying? So it's when we talk about Luka, Trae Young, who has had a decent season or decent year or decent career so far in Atlanta, is always going to be tied to Luka Doncic. And could you imagine how the Atlanta Hawks would look if they had Luka instead of Trae Young, and vice versa? And Trae Young is not a scrub in the slightest. Don't hear me say that. But when you think about that trade, the draft night trade, the Atlanta Hawks drafted Luka, and of course they traded Luka for Trae Young. It's crazy. It's crazy. The fact that now that you look up, and Luka is arguably the best player in the league. And while Trae Young is good, don't get me wrong, he's not, in my opinion, on the same level as Luka. So people are always going to attach both of them together, which is crazy. But understandable. But I just had to start the episode with a shout out to Luka. And again, Luka is one of the best players in the league, and it's again, there's like a 6-7 player pantheon where it's kind of like them and then a separation. Now there's great players, but it's them, like the Lukas or the Stephs, KDs, Jokic, and Giannis, and then there's the other ones. And don't get me wrong, the other let me not do that. Let me not go down that road. Shouts out to Luka Doncic, man, for getting a 60, 20, and 10 game, the only player in NBA history. Also becoming, the Mavs career high, his career high, but the highest point total in a game in Mavs history, beating out Dirk Nowitzki, who, by the way, got his statue unveiled. Washington, I'm going to talk about the Washington Commanders in a little bit, but Washington, take note. Take note, man. The Dirk Nowitzki statue is exactly what it was supposed to be. Something iconic, something that Dirk Nowitzki, if you're going to make a statue or create a statue, build a statue about somebody, it has to mean something. Like look at most of the statues in LA. You got you got Shaq dunking the ball. You got Magic Johnson passing the ball, because that's what they're known for. Michael Jordan has a statue in Chicago of him dunking. Ray Lewis has a statue in Baltimore of him doing the little Ray Lewis dance or the Ray Lewis yell. Statues need to mean something. And a statue is not a mannequin. Washington Commanders, take note. When we talk about statue, we see some of the great statues in the world. And the Dirk Nowitzki one that was revealed is an incredible one. Him doing a fadeaway jump shot, which is a one-legged fadeaway at that, which is his calling card, which is the shot that he made famous. Take notes, Washington. But shouts out to you, Luka, for being him. Let's move forward. You know the worst thing a team can do? The worst thing a team, NFL, NBA, any team, it's not get a pick, get a hiring, get movement. The worst thing, it's not getting them wrong. You can botch a draft pick. You can botch a hiring, botch a coaching, botch a GM hiring. You can botch that. Nothing, it happens. Sports happens. Everyone, what they say, people die every day, B. No, sometimes you pick the wrong guy every day, B. It happens. All these are choices. The worst thing that you can do is double down on your bad decision due to pride or due to you want to make face. No. Nathaniel Hackett, you kind of can tell from day one that the Nathaniel Hackett hiring wasn't a smart hiring. Of course, we thought day one that it was smart because, Nathaniel Hackett was the offensive coordinator for Green Bay. That, of course, and we know what Green Bay was with Aaron Rodgers and that offense. But there was always a question in saying, how much is Nathaniel Hackett actually calling these plays when you have Matt LaFleur calling a lot of the plays? So that was always questionable. And, of course, when you ask Aaron Rodgers about Nathaniel Hackett, he says he loves him, but he doesn't love Nathaniel Hackett as like a football player, but like he's a good guy. We go fishing, stuff like that. I've said multiple times, that some people are good coordinators and some people are good coaches. Some doesn't, and there's nothing wrong with that. You see, you can tell probably by the first game, you can tell Nathaniel Hackett isn't the right pick, isn't the right choice. You can tell that. Clock management, poor play design, to questionable play calling in certain situations. I mean, you knew when you took Russell Wilson was balling that game. No, he wasn't. He was balling that drive. And you take Russell Wilson out the game to kick a 65-yard field goal to lose a game. And all you needed was like four yards to get a first down. You can tell from day one, or game one, let's say game one, that Nathaniel Hackett was not the guy. Very easy, you can tell. But you can also tell that the Denver Broncos kept doubling down. Oh, it's going to take time. Oh, it's going to take time. Oh, this, oh, that. No, bro. Nathaniel Hackett was not and is not the answer. And, of course, they finally, because they finally fired, which is it's also funny when white coaches get fired and they actually part ways. Like, in a couple weeks, probably in a couple weeks, you're going to hear a report saying Cliff Kingsbury parted ways with the Arizona Cardinals or stepping away from the Arizona Cardinals. No, bro, you're getting fired. Nathaniel Hackett got fired. He didn't part ways. They forced him to part ways, so he got fired. I don't ever hear nobody say black coaches part ways. They said Herm Edwards got fired. They didn't say he parted ways with Arizona State. Just saying. Does Nathaniel Hackett's firing solve all of the Denver Broncos problems? Hell no. I have been a Russell Wilson advocate. To say the least. A lot of the problems that the Denver Broncos have had this year is also on or needs to be at Russell Wilson's doorstep. Russell Wilson has been horrible this year. Like, there's not he had one good game, maybe. You see, it's hard to overcome bad coaching. Because bad coaching is always going to rear its ugly head when the time comes for coaching to be important. But you have to do your best to rise above it. And I may have been wrong about Russell Wilson. I was one of those people that thought that you can put Russell Wilson anywhere and they'll succeed. Hell, a lot of people thought that because a lot of people had Denver Broncos at least in Super Bowl contention because of Russell Wilson. I thought Russell Wilson was good enough to take his talents on any team and the team automatically get better. I saw what he was working with in Seattle as far as the offensive line, as far as the defense, as far as his running game constantly being hurt, as far as sometimes not having, adequate wide receiver help outside of Tyler Lockett, who was consistent. I saw what he worked or what he was working with Seattle, and he found success. So I thought he can take that and put it anywhere, especially a team, even though the offensive line wasn't that good, especially a team that has, Cortland Sutton, that has Jaron Jeudy, that has Williams as the running back, that had Melvin Gordon, that had the defense that they had. I thought this team was going to be incredible because you bring a talent like Russell Wilson over and to a team that are just kind of like the Colts. It's just a quarterback away and they'll be good. No. I was wrong about, or at least Russell Wilson so far has proven me wrong. Well, yes, Nathaniel Hackett plays a huge part in why or in how bad the Denver Broncos have been. Russell Wilson plays. This defense is still, even though they did give up 51 points, this defense is still incredible. Patrick Surtain. This defense is incredible. But the offense has been terrible this entire year. And a lot of that is Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson came into a situation and came into an organization having this "I'm the man" complex. And hey, I'm not the one that said this. This is multiple reports that have said this. That Russell Wilson came in on this, came in on the high horse, has his own office, isolates himself from his teammates. You can't do that on you can't do that, period, especially when you're new to an organization. The quarterback, especially when the quarterback is making as much as Russell Wilson's making, the quarterback is always going to be the last to go. And the coach is always going to be the first. But I will say this. The Denver Broncos has new ownership. Meaning they're not tied to any of these people because they didn't make any of the decisions. So while Nathaniel Hackett was first to go, if things don't turn around next year, I'm not saying this year is over with. If things don't turn around, trust and believe that ownership group will find a way to get Russell Wilson off that team. I know right now it's like $111 or something like that $1 million in dead cap money. Put money. If Russell Wilson doesn't change or this team doesn't get better next year, it's gone for Russell Wilson. And that's another thing. I keep hearing Sean Payton's name come up, which I think Sean Payton would be a good option, but why would Sean Payton want to take the Denver Broncos position or head coaching position? New ownership, so pretty much unproven ownership. You don't know what's going to be with the GM. And Russell Wilson went from one of the best quarterbacks in the league to one of the worst, if not the worst starting quarterback in the league. Why would anybody want to take that position? I will say this, man. I think Russell Wilson can turn it around, but it has to be like this season has to be a coming to Jesus moment season. Because you can't go from week 10 of last year, in my opinion, he was the league MVP. To now, out a head coach, the Denver organization, or it seems like the fans have pretty much turned on Russell Wilson. They've been did that, but I think Nathaniel Hackett should have been fired. I'm not glad anybody gets fired, but I think it was the right decision. All I'll say is, if things don't turn around next year, I could put money. Russell Wilson won't be there. They'll eat that dead cap. They'll eat that dead money. And that's just real. These teams, look, the question is, people are still questioning if Lamar Jackson is going to get paid by the Ravens. Lamar Jackson. You think? And Lamar Jackson, even though he's hurt these last 2 weeks, he had a really good season. You think the Denver Broncos care about Russell Wilson if he's producing losses? Bro, there's a stat that's saying, like, if they would have scored 19 points, they would be like top 3 in the AFC record wise. I think it would be like what? The Bills, the Chiefs, the Broncos. But they find themselves currently sitting at 4-11. Let's move forward. I do want to say congratulations and shout out to J.J. Watt. He announced he will be retiring at the end of the year. There was a time where the way that we look at Aaron Donald is the same way that we looked at J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt was one of the most, in his prime, before the injuries and stuff happened, he was one of the most dominant defensive players we've ever seen. Especially his Houston Texan days, he was one of 3 times. Let me see something. Let me just read off some of his accolades. J.J. Watt was real. Justin James Watt. I knew it was. J.J. Watt, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, Walter Payton Man of the Year, 5-time First Team All-Pro, 2-time Second Team All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler, 2-time sacks leader, an NFL forced fumble co-leader, NFL 2010's All-Decade Team. J.J. Watt will go down as one of the greatest defensive players we've ever seen. You know, you have people like Lawrence Taylor, Deion Sanders, Ed Reed, Aaron Donald, J.J. Watt. I'm not saying that's the list. I'm just saying when we talk about great players, J.J. Watt is in that list. He's one of the greatest. First of all, J.J. Watt received the AP NFL Defensive Player of the Year 3 times in his first 5 seasons. I want to say congratulations to J.J. Watt. Unfortunately, it didn't end the way that it was, that I guess he wanted to end with the Arizona Cardinals. But J.J. Watt, again, had a historic career. And what's crazy is a lot of his greatness and J.J. Watt could have been a lot better. It was just due to injury. J.J. Watt, with all the accolades that he has and all the greatness that we've seen, he is he was and has been an injury-prone player. So even with all the injuries that he's dealt with, he still has the award. He still has the accolades that he has. And he's still considered one of the greatest defensive players we've ever seen. J.J. Watt is different, man. And when in his prime, he was on the Aaron Donald level. As far as when we talk about Aaron Donald, all we talk about is he's arguably one of the greatest defensive players ever. J.J. Watt was that. It's unfortunate that a lot of his greatness was robbed due to injury, but what we saw, he is a for sure lock for the Hall of Fame. For sure. He's so good in the Hall of Fame. He could be he would have. There's a good possibility if they gave players while they were playing, he would be like a clear cut. Oh yeah, you're getting in the Hall of Fame and you're still playing. I want to say congratulations to J.J. Watt, and I wish nothing but the best, man. Wish nothing but the best. Hell of a career. Let's move forward. So let's break down some of these games for week 16. Going back to Thursday, of course, December 22nd, because didn't talk about it. The Jaguars beat the Jets 19-3. So the conversation out of this is about Zach Wilson, and Zach Wilson got benched yet again. I think that you can two arguments are true about Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson's still young. Zach Wilson still has opportunity to change, an opportunity to grow. But on the other hand, Zach Wilson has been horrible. And Zach Wilson is the biggest thing holding back this Jets team. Now, yes, losing Breece Hall was huge. I said that when they lost him. I feel he was the leading offensive rookie of the year until he got hurt. That was going to be huge, but Zach Wilson has been holding this team back to the point where you have Mike White as the permanent starting quarterback. So I understand, because there was an argument. I don't remember who it was for. I think it was basketball. But they were saying people are impatient. They don't like to see players grow. Or they don't allow players to grow. They don't allow players to mature and go through hard. They want immediate success. The problem is, though, while I agree with that statement, the league is any sports league is about immediacy. A prime example is if you look at Golden State Warriors right now, and you have people wrestling with, do they because they are struggling mightily on the road. Do they trade a Moses Moody, a James Wiseman, who was their third overall pick? Or second overall pick? Do they trade a Jonathan Kuminga, who, if you just look at Jonathan Kuminga right now, he's not good. He's athletic, but he's not good. He needs more time. But does Golden State have that time when you have players like Curry or Klay Thompson or Draymond Green, and their primes are coming, or the end of their primes are coming closer than it was in the beginning, or than the start of their primes? The league is about immediacy. Zach Wilson, I don't want to call him a bust, but even Ryan Clark said it. His numbers rival that of Jamarcus Russell, of Tim Tebow, people that we consider busts. Now, again, Zach Wilson has time to grow, but How? Because I was thinking about that. Because they said he could be his days in as the Jets or as a Jets head coach. Jets quarterback. My apologies. Could be over. But it's like, where would he go? Where would he go to be a backup? Because backups are usually vets that can, take the starting quarterback under their wing But Zach Wilson hasn't shown the maturity to be able to do that. Zach Wilson's not good. He could be. But right now he's not, and I don't know. It could, I'm not going to say it's over with for Zach Wilson, but it's going to be a long time, in my opinion, for him to be named a starting quarterback somewhere again. And they name him out of confidence, not like the starting quarterback got hurt and they need someone to come in. No. Which is crazy because of how young he is. And the fact that he was in the same draft class, I believe, as Trevor Lawrence. And Trevor Lawrence, on Thursday, Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson look drastically different. Drastically. So shout out to the Jaguars for beating the Jets 19-3. Oh, and it's crazy that the Jaguars are number one in their division. It's crazy. The Ravens beat the Falcons 17-9. I think this is more because Tyler Huntley, the things that plagued the Ravens most of the season plagued them on Saturday. It's just the fact of you played the Falcons that are worse and now are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. The more and more I watch these Ravens, the more and more I understand why Lamar Jackson feels he needs to be paid and why he should be paid. This team looks god awful. I know, 17-9. This team looks god awful without him. It just looks terrible. I saw a stat that they said Marlon Humphreys has not given up a touchdown this year. That could be true. I don't know if it is, but that could be true. But this is also the Ravens team that has had multiple double-digit leads. And because of their defense, the same side of the ball that Marlon Humphreys plays, they've lost, 4 of them? So, something to think about. The Panthers beat the Lions 37-23. First and foremost, what the hell, Lions? The Panthers are kind of like the Jaguars. They're surging at the right time. I think the big test for the Panthers comes this week when they have to play against the Bucs, but they're surging at the right time. And the Panthers, like the Jaguars, and sort of like the Lions until Saturday, you don't really want to play these teams because they're playing their best football. The Panthers have a shot of making it to the playoffs. If they beat the Bucs, it's pretty much over with. Which they play on Sunday. Sam Darnold's playing well. The defense, even though I think J.C. Horn broke his wrist or something, so I hope for a speedy recovery. But I know it's 30. I know it's 14 point, but it was worse than that. It felt worse than that. So shouts out to the Panthers. The Bills beat the Bears 35-13. Don't let the score fool you. The game was a lot closer than I think. The Bills, this is yet another week where the Bills don't look the best. Now, yes, I understand it was it was cold. But the Bills, I know it's very hard to say a 12-3 team doesn't look good, but they have not looked good these last few weeks. And I hope that turns around for the playoffs. So, but Shouts out to the Bills. The Saints beat the Browns 17-10. The Browns are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. I don't really have much to say about this game. It is what it is. The Chiefs beat the Seahawks 24-10. Again, the Seahawks are starting to look like the Seahawks that we thought they were. Remember, they were like juggernauts, and now they're 7-8. And it's just the cream rise to the top. Oh yeah, and the Seahawks are singing. That's just it. They look like a different class of team when they went against the Chiefs. So, shouts out to the Chiefs. Oh, and Patrick Mahomes is the MVP right now. Like, plain and simple. So, shouts out to that. The Vikings beat the Giants 27-24. Did you know the Vikings have been like 11 one-score games and have won all of them? They're 11-0 in one-score games this year. That's incredible. Shouts out to Justin Jefferson for breaking Randy Moss's receiving yards for the Vikings, and I think he also broke Chris Carter's catching record for the Vikings as well. He's one of one, man. Justin Jefferson is real. And this Vikings team is real. Their defense is still garbage. Their defense is terrible. But being 11-0 in one-score games shows you that the resiliency that this offense has. Now, Kirk Cousins, especially if it's not 1 o'clock, Kirk Cousins can still give you those stinkers because they should have lost the game. They just didn't. I think their kicker hit a 62-yarder or something like that. But the fact that their offense continues to get them in position and wins in one-score games is incredible and bodes well in the playoffs. So, shouts out to the Vikings. The Bengals beat the Patriots 22-18. The biggest story of this game is Mac Jones is still a dirty player. There's a video compilation of Mac Jones doing dirty play things. Like, what are you doing, bro? What are you doing? Yeah, I think he threw an interception and undercut Eli Apple when Eli Apple wasn't even the one with the ball. Mac Jones is trash. But shouts out to the Bengals. Texans beat the Titans 19-14. You lost to a 1-win team. Now, I understand that, Ryan Tannehill didn't play, but still. The Titans are reeling. I think the Titans have lost like 5 straight games. And now they're under 500. Boy, oh boy. The Titans. What was that? The AFC East, North, South, West. AFC what? North. AFC, no. South. AFC South. Garbage. Terrible. The Commanders. The 49ers beat the Commanders 37-20. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in a second. Let's move forward. The Cowboys beat the Eagles 40-34. Now, Jalen Hurts didn't play. Gardner Minshew played. I hear a lot of people say, well, that's the same thing happened. Dak Prescott didn't play. Cooper Rush played the first game where the Eagles won. The Cowboys is a good team. The Eagles are a good team. I think that both teams feel if they are completely healthy, that both teams should win. Which I guess is a good feeling to have, especially when you're talking about the top team in the NFC. But the things that I don't like that Dak has been doing all years. He did this game multiple turnovers, but it didn't bite him. Gardner Minshew had some turnovers. The run game was the run game. I think Gardner Minshew didn't he? No, Dak Prescott threw a pick six. I think both teams are good teams, and both teams, when fully healthy, has a good shot at beating each other or beating one another. And I think that's what you get from that game. So, the Steelers beat the Raiders 13-10. Yeah, I think it's kind of over with for. I understand, rest in peace to Franco Harris. We all know, many people know him from the Immaculate Reception. He will go down as, you can't talk about the greatest football players and not talk about Franco Harris. Or let me say this, he has a solidified play that will go down in history as one of the best plays in NFL history. He was a Steeler, embodied the Steeler way, and he passed away. So rest in peace to Franco Harris. And of course, the Steelers were playing for him, but still, the Raiders find a way. Now you have Josh Jacobs talking about I can't do this anymore, and he's upset. And I think Derek Carr threw 3 interceptions. I think Derek Carr's days are done after this year. I think there's going to be big changes in the league, and I think Derek Carr probably won't be a Raider anymore. I could be wrong, but it doesn't seem like he will be. So, but shouts out to the Steelers for getting a big win over the Raiders. So. The Packers beat the Dolphins 26-20. Tua threw three interceptions and 3 back-to-back possessions. So one possession, interception, next possession, interception, next possession, interception. The Packers still have life, and the Packers need to win out. I thought that the Dolphins going to be one of those games, especially being in Miami, that they're going to lose, but the biggest story out of this game was Tua got another concussion, and he's in concussion protocol. Look, bro, I get that you love football. I get that football is important, and I get that football has opened a lot of doors for the Tagovailoa family. But you have to think about your life, bro. Having 3 concussions pretty much in the span of a year is wild. No, in the span of a football season is wild. I wouldn't play again this year, at least, if I was Tua. And the play that he got the concussion on wasn't even a hard hit. It was just the fact that his head bounced off the turf. If I'm Tua, I'm not playing again this year. I think that somebody has to be like, hey, yo, it's not that. I know, we have high aspirations of making it to the playoffs and making big moves in the playoffs, but your health is way more important than anything. If I was somebody I know they're not going to do this because, of course, the organization don't even think about the organization. But if I'm somebody in the Miami organization, I'm like, yo, no, you shouldn't play again this year. At all. Win, lose, or draw. If we make it to the Super Bowl, you shouldn't play. Your life is more important than this, man. And again, I understand it's hard because football is giving everything to some of these people. But nah. 3 concussions in one football season is insane. But, we just talked about it, but the Rams that Baker Mayfield started the quarterback. The Rams beat the Broncos 51-14. Your defense is good, but it can only maintain for so long before the dam breaks. And when you're Russell Wilson, I think Russell Wilson threw 2 or 3 interceptions. What can you do? Excuse me. What can you do? It's crazy. Uh, the Buccaneers beat the Cardinals 19-16. I hear people keep saying, "Oh, look at, Tom. When they need him the most, he rose up and look." And the Buccaneers played incredible the last drive. Look, bro, the Buccaneers, I feel, is a one and done team in the playoffs. They are going to the Broncos. I mean, the Buccaneers are not good. Did you watch that whole game? The fact that Trace McSorley, wasn't he the quarterback from Michigan? Wasn't he the quarterback from Michigan? Hold on. I'm almost sure Trace McSorley was the quarterback for Michigan. And if I'm correct, I'm definitely wrong. Trace McSorley was the quarterback for Penn State. Richard Thomas Trace McSorley III almost beat Tom Brady. And really, if it wasn't for some tough plays, they would have beat him in regulation. Buda Baker got hurt. Buccaneers are not good, bro. Yeah. And the last game of the week, the Chargers beat the Colts 20-3. Yeah, man. The Colts suck. The Colts are terrible. This is also the same Colts that gave up the biggest lead or blew the biggest lead in NFL history, 33-0. I understand that Jonathan Taylor's out and there's a lot of injured players, but there's no way Jeff Saturday is the coach next year. I just see a lot of, Jim Irsay is a very impulsive owner. I just see a failed swoop of changes. I'd be surprised, even though he's still one of the best. I'd be surprised if Quentin Nelson's there next year. And Quentin Nelson is arguably the best offensive lineman in the league. That's how bad this Colts team is. This is another team, just like the Broncos, was a quarterback away. Let me see something real quick. Let me look at the Colts quarterback quarterback position the past few years. Because I know they had, of course, Phillip Rivers. I know they had Phillip Rivers. I know they had Carson Wentz. Here we go. Since Andrew Luck left. Andrew Luck left in 2018. They've had Jacoby Brissett, Brian Hoyer, Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, Sam Ehlinger, and Nick Foles. Yeah. That's not good. Yeah. Oh, you know what's funny? I also did this. I'll do it in a second. Oh, and shouts out to Justin Herbert willing this team to the playoffs. I thought, with all the injuries that they sustained, I didn't think they were going to make the playoffs this year. But they did. And a lot of that is because of the play of Justin Herbert. Now, yeah, the criticism about Justin Herbert is his consistency. But when he's on fire, he's on fire. When you have your top two wide receivers, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen playing, he looks really good. Austin Eckler at the running back position, he looks good. Now, yes, the offensive line definitely needs work, especially with Rashawn Slater out for the year. And, of course, the defense, I don't know how they're going to fare in the playoffs, but it's good to see Justin Herbert in the playoffs. So, there's that, man. Oh, congratulations to the Chargers. That's been week 16, man. And lastly before we go, let's talk about this. So I I held off talking about the Washington 49ers game because the Washington, they lost 37-20, and Taylor Heineke got benched. For Carson Wentz, and it's been announced that Carson Wentz will be the starting quarterback moving forward, or for next week against the Browns, or this week against the Browns. I've said this before, and I'll reiterate. As a talent, Carson Wentz is better than Taylor Heineke. As God-given quarterbacking ability, Carson Wentz is better than Taylor Heineke. However, it seems like the locker room wants to play for Taylor Heineke more than they want to play for Carson Wentz. It just looks differently. But also, it's kind of like why people, when you hear people say they should bench Russell Wilson, you heard Dan Orlowski said they should bench Russell Wilson. Then you hear a lot of people say, or you hear Ryan Clark immediately say they can't do that because of how much they're paying him. They traded for Carson Wentz and fronted the bill from Indianapolis. So he's a very expensive person to just leave on the bench. Now, then another argument that I actually agree with is when we go back to Russell Wilson and said, how do you know that his backup isn't that good? Or how do you know that the Broncos' backup isn't as good as Russell Wilson is right now? And I said it's very simple. While, yes, Russell Wilson is making as much as they're making, the Denver Broncos as a team, like a roster, is a playoff championship caliber team. And if you had, even though he's making a lot of money, if you had anybody that played the same or that played as good as or played better than Russell Wilson, they would play them because this is a championship team. And that's how you know that his backup ain't that good. The problem with Washington is, in my opinion, Taylor Heineke is looking eye to eye with Carson Wentz. I think that's more of a indictment on Carson Wentz than it is a compliment of Taylor Heineke. Kind of like Zach Wilson, I think Carson Wentz is playing for his career this year, or playing for his career these next two games. It didn't work, or the end of his Philly run was terrible. It clearly didn't work in Indianapolis, and if it doesn't work on his third team, a team that needs him, by the way, then what? Who else is going to take a flyer on Carson Wentz? The difference between Zach Wilson and Carson Wentz is this is his third stop. And it seems like everywhere he's gone has ended or looked eerily similar. Zach Wilson has only been in one place, and that's the Jets. And he's younger. But this Carson Wentz situation shines a brighter light. Shines a brighter light on Washington's quarterback situation. We just talked about the Colts situation. Listen to this. Since 2017, well, since 2017, which was Kirk Cousins last year. Let me first. Kirk Cousins is not the best quarterback at all. But if you're going to give up on a Kirk Cousins, you have to have a successful alternative. Because again, I'm not saying Kirk Cousins is great, but you're seeing what he's doing with the Vikings right now. And while again, there's a difference between 1 p.m. Kirk Cousins and 4 p.m. Kirk Cousins, but that Kirk Cousins is still reliable to a certain extent. But since 2017, Washington has had Alex Smith, Josh Johnson, Colt McCoy, Mark Sanchez, Case Keenum, Dwayne Haskins, rest in peace, Kyle Allen, Taylor Heineke, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Garrett Gilbert, and now Carson Wentz. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 11 quarterbacks since 2017. 12 if you want to include Kirk Cousins. So no, let's not include Kirk. Since Kirk Cousins, Washington's had 11 quarterbacks start for them. Washington has been a poverty franchise for a while now. In fact, what was the last really good Washington season? Was it RG3? Yeah, it was probably RG3. In 13, maybe 16. With Kirk Cousins. Might have been it. So I'll leave it with this. When you move Washington, just like Indianapolis did, and just like just like Philly did at the end of the run, Washington finds themselves in a very peculiar situation. Taylor Heineke's not. They put up the stats, right? And Taylor Heineke has good stats. The problem and the thing that the stats don't, really show is Taylor Heineke fumbles the ball a lot and throws a lot of very poor interceptions. Just like Carson Wentz. So Washington finds themselves in a very peculiar situation. You have two options. Both of them aren't the best, but you have two options. You either A, stick with Taylor Heineke, and with that option, you feel like the locker room, the players want to play more. It seems like the players want to play more for Taylor Heineke than, even though he's not the best quarterback. So if you play Taylor Heineke, you risk maybe not putting the best quarterback out there, but you have the locker room. And Washington is in prime position to win or to at least make the playoffs. So what do you do with that? On the other option, you play Carson Wentz, who is the better-ish quarterback, but you lose some of the vigor in the locker room because it seems like a lot of players don't, and actually reports have come out, a lot of players aren't too fond to play with Carson Wentz. Both options, in my opinion, don't really offer much. And honestly, again, Carson Wentz is a better quarterback than Taylor Heineke, but it hasn't produced much. There's a reason why Carson Wentz was kind of bent. Well, he got hurt, but when he was healthy, they were like, no, you're going to stay on the bench, bro. Again, I don't I don't know, man. Washington got some decisions to make. The worst part about it is like Washington, because I'm from the Maryland area, DMV area, and every year's shouts out to Jarrell and Bobby, when the host of 1,000 Jumpers podcast, when they came on here, there was optimism in saying that this could be Washington's year as far as make it to the playoffs and winning the division. Seems like that's every year. So at least that's the conversation every year. So I would say Washington fans are probably as delusional as Cowboys fans. The difference is there's more Cowboys fans and they're louder. And while I don't think Washington fans think that these teams are good enough to win the playoffs or anything, but if you ask any Washington fan before the season starts, usually it's, if we could win the division. If you ask any Cowboys fan, it doesn't matter who's the coach, it doesn't matter who is the quarterback, they always think that they're Super Bowl bound. I don't know. But there you have it, man. That has been episode 300 of the Unpopular podcast. Again, man, I appreciate you guys. I really, truly do. I couldn't do this without you guys. I started the episode with this, and I'm going to end it with it. This is not easy. And I think anybody that goes into podcasting, anybody that even wants to podcast, they understand this is not easy, especially when you're a one-man band. So I appreciate the support. I really, truly do. There's no way I could have made this to 300 if it wasn't for, at least one person to say, hey, what you're doing is all right, For all the people that's questioning if you want a podcast, do it. It's a lot of work. It's not just talking to a mic, unless you have like a big team, but big team costs money, and money I don't got. But yeah, if you want to do it, do it. For the people that sees their followers count or subscribers count slow down or stop, that doesn't mean your content's bad. It just means maybe they haven't seen it yet. When you do this, when you make anything, content, when you make anything, you have to do it for yourself more than anything. Because if you don't do it for yourself, then why yourself won't even follow you. So why would you expect anyone to do that? You have to go into it with the mindset of I'm doing this for an audience of one, which is myself. That means anybody that comes along is a reward, or it's cool. But you're not doing it for them. I don't do this for subscribers. I don't do this for fans. I do this because I enjoy it. And while, yes, I would like more subscribers, I would like more people to support, at the end of the day, I'm doing this for myself because I enjoy it. And there's no way I could. I'd be complaining. I'd be complaining like hell, bruh. Every podcast day, I'd be like, yo, I don't feel like doing this, bro. I don't feel like going to research topics and going to figure out what the album or what the episode cover is going to be, or editing the episode, or editing every episode, or putting it out. I don't be feeling like doing it, man. What I feel like doing and what I enjoy doing the most is once this camera cuts on, once these lights come on, once this computer opens up, once that screen comes on, I'm ready to talk. And that is what I love the most. To get to 300 episodes, bro. To get to 2 episodes, you gotta love it. Cause this ain't for the faint of heart, bro. This is not. It's a lot harder than you think. So I say all that to say, I appreciate everyone. I really do. I really, truly do. For my people look at it and say, Jay, you only got what? 370 YouTube subscribers. That's 370 people that care about what I got to talk about. And for them, I appreciate it. Because I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for me. If you want to start a podcast, do it for you. If you want to do anything, vlog, post something on Instagram, post something on social media, always understand, be a content creator, always understand who your audience is. And your audience should always be you. What do you want to see? Be the person, be the content creator that you want to see. And people will follow. If it's not authentic, people know that. Like you think, I was about to say something crazy. Thank you. If you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve, joggers, the link is in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. Get your Unpopular Podcast merch today. It definitely means a lot to me. And again, I appreciate y'all. This is the episode 300. I don't know. I was about to say 300 more. I don't know. I'm going to keep going until God tells me to stop. Or until God opens or God puts me in another path. So I thank y'all. Much love.